I'm so unbelievably awkward. Shit. Okay, so in today's video, I am going to be reading all of Sally Rooney's books and ranking them at the end, giving my thoughts and opinions, because this is one of the most talked about authors, especially on like social media and things. And I own all 3 of her books and I have not read a single one of them. So I feel like this will be a good opportunity to do that. I don't know really what genre her books fit into. I don't know if it says. I don't know, they're really interesting. I've heard that they're not really romance books and they're not really plot driven, they're very character driven, sort of slice of life type books. Very dramatic. I heard that they kind of tend to make people angry, and I know that Normal People and Conversations with Friends both have TV adaptations, and I'm interested to maybe eventually watch those shows. I know that Conversations with Friends has Joe Alwyn, which I have never seen him act in anything, so I'm really intrigued to watch this once I've read the book to see kind of how he is as an actor, because the only thing that I know him as is Taylor Swift's former boyfriend. I know that they're not really happy ending types of books. I know that this is like a really polarizing author. You either really like her or you really don't like her. So that's kind of why I wanted to do this video, because I'm curious to see where I fall on the scale. I've heard she has a kind of unique writing style in that like she doesn't use quotations for her dialogue. So I have no idea how I'm going to adapt to that, because I don't think I've ever read a book where, other than like maybe a poetry book, I've never read like a novel that has not used quotations for dialogue. I think that the order that I'm gonna go in is, I'm gonna start with Normal People, because this, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this is her first, like her debut novel, and this is sort of the novel that people think when they think Sally Rooney. Yeah, so starting with Normal People, and then I'm going to read Conversations with Friends. I think I should start with the 2 that are adaptations so that I can get into the show, and then Beautiful World, Where Are You, I'm going to finish with because it's the longest, which is weird because normally I feel like I would want to start with the longest to get it out of the way, but in this case we're gonna read it last, just because I am going to start reading Normal People today, and I am going to be doing this video spoiler free. So if you are concerned about spoilers and just kind of want to know what I think about the books, if you are thinking about reading them, you don't have to worry about spoilers. Okay, I'm pretty sure that that's all that I have to say for now. So I am going to go start Normal People, and I will get back to you with my thoughts. This is completely unrelated, but look at the cute little bookmark. It's a cactus. My boyfriend got it for me for my birthday. Probably gonna read like the first 5 chapters-ish. Okay, so it's already kind of weird that she doesn't use quotation marks for her dialogue. So far, it looks like every single time she does it, she follows it with like he says or she says, so that you know it was something that someone said. I don't know if that'll change. I'm hoping that once I get into the writing style, it'll be kind of less weird. It'll feel less weird, but we'll have to see. Also, I don't know when this book was released, because I mean it takes place in, it starts off in January of 2011, looks like. Information is published. Also, please don't be sure at least level friends are lesson. Images, or people right? How many images? Okay, it looks like this book was published in 2018, so it's interesting that it takes place or starts in 2011. I don't know, maybe it takes place over like a very large amount of time. Oh, and it looks like Conversations with Friends came out in 2017. So I guess Conversations with Friends was her debut novel. Also, I have music going in the background. Hopefully it's not so loud that it's distracting every time I cut in with my thoughts. Okay, it looks like I spoke too soon and that I am actually going to have to decipher what is dialogue and what's not, because she does not always say who's saying what, and she does not use quotation marks. Oh boy. I finished the first chapter and it was interesting, to say the least. I think that it'll probably be kind of like an enemies to lovers, but I know that this book probably is not going to have a happy ending. So I haven't really read a book like this, but I don't know. It's interesting so far. Okay, I'm gonna try to make this not super shaky, but I had to take my camera off the tripod because the battery died, so I need to charge the battery, and I'm too lazy to put it back on the tripod, and I really don't have a lot to say yet anyways, so I'm just going to give a quick little update. I'm on page 60. I've read the first 5 chapters, and I am really liking it so far. It's a little bit early to tell, but I think that I cannot picture this being less than a 3-star. I think where we're at right now, it'll probably be a 4-star, but obviously I'm only 60 pages in. We only really have sort of a little bit of an introduction to the characters. I do have to say, regarding the characters, I have a little bit of an opinion. I do really like the fact that we have a rich but unpopular character, as well as a sort of like lower class yet popular character, because I feel like in a lot of books, if you're rich you're popular, and if you're poor you're unpopular. So I kind of like seeing it be the opposite way in this book. I can officially say that I have gotten used to the lack of quotations in dialogue. It's really not that difficult now that I'm kind of gotten used to the writing style. I don't know, that's really all that I have to say thus far. I'm going to continue reading, and I will probably update you around halfway. Okay, so I feel like I'm almost done the book, so now would be a good time for me to kind of give my thoughts. Where to begin? I like the book. I can safely say that I do not think that I'm one of the haters of this book. Now that I'm like 83% of the way through the book, I think I can give some sort of more concise thoughts. I know that I said that I was going to check in halfway, but this is kind of a hard book to do that with because it is so short and not a lot of plot. I have started the show. I've watched the first 4 episodes of the show. I don't know how many episodes there are. I'm assuming like there's only 1 season of the show, and I'm assuming it will be the only season. I will say that this book is sort of more interesting than a lot of other books that I've read previously, just in general, because there's not really a lot of plot, which is obviously normally a part of books, is the plot. It's very much character driven. Just like, I wouldn't even be surprised if Sally Rooney kind of just started writing and decided where it was gonna go as it went. It's well written, don't get me wrong, but it's just not plot driven, basically. Like, I can understand the criticisms that people have with it being boring. I am not bored out of my mind, oh my god, and I think that's because I like her writing style, and I'm like sort of taking breaks to watch the show as I read it, and I just do other things. Like, I work full-time. Like, I'm going to be finishing this book today, and it's July 3rd, and I started it on July 1st, so 3 days of reading a book that's not even 300 pages. That's like a long time for me. Like, if I were to sit and read this all in one go, I don't think that I'd be able to, and I think that I would actually find that quite boring. We're 3.5 years in, and they are not together, and they never have been together, like, officially. So I just feel like it's not very promising. I feel like this book is gonna have a really bittersweet or maybe even sad ending. In regards to the show, actually, I kind of want to talk about casting was done really well, I think. it was very strange seeing or like hearing the Irish accent. Like I know that that's a part of the book and that they didn't change that for the show. They're actually Irish in the book. I just, thoughts don't really happen in my head that way because I'm not Irish. I will also say that from what I've seen so far, it has stayed pretty true to the book. But again, I've only seen the first 4 episodes, so I could be completely wrong. Yeah, that's really all that I have to say. So I'm going to finish this book. So yeah. Wasn't really an ending because it is so open-ended. That is really frustrating. I don't like it when books don't have closure, and this did not have closure. So if you want to read this, expect it to not have closure. I mean, I guess you can make up your own closure. It was so close to a happy ending, and it wasn't really not a happy ending either. That's the thing. Because there is no ending. It's just like to be continued, but it's never continued. Okay, well, that was Normal People. I think that I need to digest and figure out what I'm going to rate this book. I just realized I'm wearing the same shirt that I wore, I think, when I started the video. My thoughts on Normal People. I think that I have settled on 3 stars for this book. I think it might be closer to 3.5. Because like I did enjoy it. I think that I enjoyed it largely because it is so short. I think if it were any longer than 300 pages, I would not like it. I will say 3.5 stars is not a bad rating. I know a lot of people either love Sally Rooney or hate Sally Rooney, especially this book in particular. And I kind of have it right in the middle. The things that I liked about it were the characters for the most part. I enjoyed. I think that they were very realistic, which, I mean, the book is called Normal People, and I think that that's Sally Rooney's entire thing, is writing characters that are normal, that are genuinely flawed and have real world flaws. A lot of times I would be reading the book and somebody would be upset about something that I feel like if they had just talked about it, or like there was a lot of miscommunication, which is normally a trope that I don't like, but I know that it's also kind of realistic, especially in this age demographic. Like the characters in this book are in their like late teens, early 20s throughout most of the book. The book takes place over the course of like 4-ish years. So I understand that that is a realistic thing that happens in people of this age. I think everything would be better if everybody just communicated, but that doesn't always happen, and that's evident in this book. Regarding like the things that people would get upset about, a lot of the time I would be like, why are you upset about that? That seems like such a small little thing to be upset about, because rationally it is, but then when I put myself in their shoes, I can understand maybe why they were upset about it and how they reacted emotionally, because a lot of times we forget that people aren't always logical. They react emotionally as well, and the characters in this book did do that a lot. So when I would put myself in their shoes, I'd be like, okay, I would probably also be upset about that, even though I understand from an outside perspective that that might not be realistic. It was kind of frustrating. The ending frustrated me because I like closure, and this book does not have a lot of closure, and we were so close to having like a definitive happy ending. Everybody always tells you this is not a romance book. It's sad and it's frustrating, and we were so close to a happy ending that I thought that I had misunderstood what they meant, because I thought that we were gonna have that happy closure, and then like last page just ruined it, and it was an open ending, so we don't even know what ended up actually happening. So that was frustrating for me. So I think that that probably has part to do with it. And then in regards to the TV show, I'm almost done. I've watched 9 out of the 12 episodes. And I will say, if you want to watch the show, maybe don't do it right after reading the book, because the thing about the show is that each episode is like half an hour and there's 12 episodes. So that's like 6 hours of TV, and it didn't even take me 6 hours to read this book. Most of the time when you have a movie or a TV adaptation, you end up cutting things out that were in the book so that you can fit it into that amount of time. But because this book is so short, almost every single detail is in the TV show, and it's just very normal. Like, it's not a lot of plot, it's just normal people doing normal things, which is why the book is called Normal People and why the show is called Normal People. So I do find that it gets kind of boring at times, because 6 hours of almost nothing, like, I don't even have the attention span for like a 2-hour movie that is full of like action. And I'm assuming that Conversations with Friends, the TV show, will not be much different, because the book kind of follows the same style as this book. I don't know, that's just kind of my opinion, is that the TV show is kind of boring, but I do like the casting. And I will say, if you really like perfect adaptations where they don't really cut a lot of the story out, a lot of the details out, then I would say that the TV show did a really good job, because they really don't cut a whole lot out. In total, it probably took me 3 or 4 hours to read this book, and it's 6 hours of TV. Do what you will with that information. I don't know. This was a good book. Okay, now I'm gonna move on to Conversations with Friends, because I never showed you, actually I might have showed you me starting to read this book, but I never gave you like any thoughts. And I am exactly halfway through. This book is separated into 2 parts, and I've read the first part, so I am like actually at the halfway point. I will say that I think I actually like Conversations with Friends more than Normal People, which is weird because there's some tropes in this book that I'm not normally a fan of, cheating being one of them. That's not a spoiler, by the way. It's like, it's on the back of the book. And normally reading about cheating, watching cheating happen, like it's never justifiable to me. But I understand that it's fiction, and that's why I'm just, these are not real people, this is fictional. The way I see it is, I don't even know how, like, I feel like I have to tiptoe around this conversation. Cheating is bad. Cheating is bad. I don't like the fact that there's cheating in this book, despite the fact that there are lines that are blurred intentionally to make it seem less bad than it is. I don't know, I feel like my whole opinion on this book so far has been that cheating is bad, but I'm also saying that I like this book more than Normal People. And I think it's because, I don't even know. It's hard to describe why I like this book, because that is such a prevalent issue that I have with the book. I do not like our main protagonist, Francis's best friend, Bobby. I just kind of find her annoying. I don't even feel like she's that good of a friend. She just seems kind of like vindictive and almost like she's trying to compete with Francis. These books also sort of represent more of like a wealthier demographic of people that I'm not really able to relate to. I never really have gatherings with my friends where we enjoy a glass of wine over a charcuterie board and talk about art. Like, it's just not something that's realistic to me. I don't think that I like Nick that much. I don't know. Sometimes I like him, sometimes I feel bad for him, sometimes I don't like him. I'm curious to see what the show is like, because I looked up the cast for Conversations with Friends, and Joe Alwyn plays Nick. So I have found myself while reading, maybe that's partly why I'm more drawn to this book, because I have that mental connection. Because while I'm reading, every time Nick is on the page, I just imagine Joe Alwyn, which is not something that really happens. I don't really imagine specific actors and actresses. I kind of make up a face in my brain. But I think just having a known face, it's the same as when I read The Hunger Games. The first time I read it, obviously I didn't imagine this, but after watching the movies with Jennifer Lawrence playing Katniss, and I think she did a really good job, now that's all that I imagine, even if she doesn't necessarily fit the description. And the same with Peeta. With Peeta, I always imagine Josh Hutcherson. It's just it's just the way that it is. I don't know. I feel like at this point I'm just kind of talking in circles. I hope that I cohere. I think that I did a good job of giving you my thoughts on Normal People. It's hard to have an opinion on a book when you're not done the book. So from where I'm sitting, I think that I'm going to like this more than Normal People. Thank God Beautiful World, Where Are You does not have a TV show, because I just don't think I can handle that much mundaneness. And I say the word mundane and it makes it sound bad. The books are interesting because they explore realistic topics. They're just not very plot heavy. And as someone who normally reads like fantasy, even a little bit of romance or mystery from time to time, they're very like reliant on the plot. And these books are just kind of like, when I say slice of life, that's literally what I mean. It's just scenes of people doing very normal things. And I don't know how I feel about that, because I do normal things every day, and normally I read to escape the normal and enter a world of excitement and new things. I've been talking for 20 minutes and I don't want to have to edit down any more footage, so I think I'm going to let you go. I'm also pretty sure that Randall will be home from work shortly, and I don't know, I just don't want him to walk in and ruin my flow. Not that I really have a lot of flow, I'm bad at talking. Anyway, so that is it. That is all. Those are my opinions. Finished Conversations with Friends, and this one I have given a 4-star. I do feel like I enjoyed this book noticeably more than I enjoyed Normal People. It wasn't like it was a 5-star or anything, but a 4-star is still a really good rating. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed this book. These books are kind of difficult to give thoughts on because they're so morally gray, and they're, I'm gonna have to go through this quick because my battery's about to die. They're so morally gray, and a lot of the characters say and do things that I don't really necessarily agree with, and that can be frustrating, but you're also supposed to be frustrated, I feel like. For example, Frances, our main character, has some really bad health complications going on that she just decides not to tell anybody about, which was odd and frustrating because there wasn't really any explanation as to why she didn't want to tell her friends and family that she was suffering with this painful medical condition. So I mean, that was frustrating. Bobby as a character was kind of frustrating, but I did sort of like come to terms with who she was as a character, and I started to warm up to her later on in the book. I did like the ending of this book more. Kind of come to the conclusion that Sally Rooney doesn't really end her books. She just kind of she leaves them open to interpretation, how things end out. Yeah, it's very strange, but I did like the ending of this book. I liked Nick, even though I don't know. When I talk about infidelity in terms of this book, it's very strange because it's not like a very black and white situation. Like, don't get me wrong, I still don't think that there's any excuse to cheat, but I don't know. The situation that they were in this book, it's so hard to talk vaguely about without spoiling, without just making it seem like I'm condoning cheating, which I'm not. I just think that the situation between like the 4 main characters is just so unreal. Like, it was realistic, but at the same time unrealistic, because I don't know anybody who has ever been in a situation like that. And I just cannot imagine a situation like that. I mean, it's a married couple in their 30s becoming friends with 2 young girls in college in their early 20s. Like, our main character's 21. So it's just a weird dynamic overall. And I found it unrelatable, but at the same time I think that that might be kind of why I was interested in the book and why I don't know, kind of was intrigued by that aspect of the book. Kind of the fact that I have a lot of critiques regarding this book makes it sound like I did not enjoy it, but I did really thoroughly enjoy this book. I was rooting for people that realistically you shouldn't root for, but the book is written in a way that makes you want to root for them while also just being very realistic, except for like the overall situation. But I feel like if you were in that whole situation that was presented in this book, the book was pretty accurate in regards to how you might behave under those circumstances. So yeah, in regards to the show, I have watched the first episode, so I don't really have a whole lot of thoughts. As opposed to Normal People, Conversations with Friends is a show. Again, I've only watched the first episode, so I can't really speak to the whole show, but all of the events in the first episode were events that happened in the book, but it doesn't seem like it is very like precise. Like they have changed some things, which is not really something that I felt with Normal People. They didn't really change a whole lot. So there's that. That's my opinion on that. Okay, it is like a week later and I'm finally finishing this video. I had a hard time getting through this book, to say the least, and that is what took me so long to be able to finally close out the video, is because obviously I had to finish the last book in order to be able to close out the video. And I got to like 80% through the book. Like I only had 5 chapters left, and then I just stopped reading it for a while. I was just doing other things because I did not want to pick up the book because I was so bored with it. 2.5 stars. I also don't think that I really updated in between because all of my thoughts were so bland that I was just hoping that it would turn around and that I'd end up liking the book and then I could give some positive thoughts on the book. That did not end up happening. As for the book, the structure of the book was something that I wasn't too fond of. The way that it operated was, so the book follows the perspective of 2 different women and their sprouting, developing relationships. It was a 4-chapter cycle. So chapter 1 would be Alice's POV, and then chapter 2 would be an email from Alice to Eileen. Chapter 3 would be Eileen POV, and then chapter 4 would be an email from Eileen to Alice. For the first little bit, I didn't like the emails because, like, for example, there's no separation of paragraphs. Like, it's all just one like run-on paragraph, which was really hard for me to digest and just kind of dense, and I dreaded it. And then about halfway through the book, I realized how much shorter the email chapters were. That made me excited for a short chapter, because I don't know why. Short chapters, every time I read a short chapter, I just feel like I'm getting through the book so much faster. So I like books that have short chapters. For the first little bit, it was dragging on because they were so densely packed, but then I would look forward to it because it meant that I had less that I had to read in that chapter. The book as a whole was like very densely packed compared to other ones. Like if you look at for other ones, like there's breaks between the paragraphs, like there's like the paragraphs are shorter for dialogue and stuff too, whereas let me flip to a page of this book. Like see, that's all just one big paragraph, and that's kind of how this book is written, and I don't like it because even dialogue, like typically dialogue, which especially since Sally Rooney doesn't put quotation marks for dialogue, at least each new person talking would be a new paragraph, as it typically would be in most like writing styles, but not in this book for some reason. It's just like all the paragraph and you kind of have to just kind of figure it out. So it was a little bit confusing and a little bit like it drug on. I also think that I didn't connect to the characters of this book as much because the characters of this book I think are in their late 20s, early 30s, whereas her other books, at least the main characters are like teens, early 20s, which I'm 21. And then the last 5 chapters were really hard because the chapters were really long, and it was finally them being together, like the 2 friends who throughout the whole book have been just emailing back and forth. We kind of get tidbits here and there of their backstory and their relationship together. And then the last few chapters is them finally like being together or whatever, and those chapters just kind of ended up being a chore to get through because I didn't care that much. Honestly, I found a lot of it boring. Like, Sally Rooney's writing style is very philosophical. Like, it makes you think and question the world and the way that it operates, and her characters are all like that. And this book was no exception, although in this book it almost felt very annoying. Almost, it felt like every single, I don't know, maybe I'm just not smart enough to enjoy this, but it just felt very, I don't even know what word to say, like pretentious almost. I don't know. It's probably just because I'm not stupid. It's probably just because I'm not smart enough to read this book. And it's not even that I didn't understand. Like, I understood. I just found it annoying because people don't colloquially speak this way. I will say that this book had a happy ending, which wasn't my favorite, but I liked it because it was a happy ending, and her other two books do not have happy endings, and that was one of my complaints. So I felt obligated to be content with the fact that this is a happy ending, especially considering the characters are older and still having like a very hard time mentally. But it felt like 30-year-olds acting like teenagers, but having all of these adult problems. As for a ranking for this book, I think I gave it 2.5 stars. As far as rankings go, this was definitely my least favorite at 2.5 stars. It was also her longest book, so I feel like it obviously drug on more than her other books because it is the longest. It wasn't a bad book, it just was a little bit boring, which is a big critique that people have for Sally Rooney in general. So, normal people, I settled on a 3.5 star. So I enjoyed this book. I liked how short it was. I liked the characters. I found them relatable. It was sad and frustrating, but it was supposed to be, so it did what it was supposed to do, and it was a good book. And then my favorite was Conversations with Friends. I already gave kind of my thoughts on why it's my favorite, but yeah, so that is my official ranking. This is number 1, this is number 2, this is number 3. I think Randall is coming.
This upside-down Pokeball has always felt like Dex filler.
Your butt's out.
Okay, well, your boobs were just in my video. Okay. Is Sally Rooney worth the hype? If you were to say that Sally Rooney is a 5-star author, I would personally disagree with that. Obviously, I have not given a single one of her books 5 stars, which I kind of expected to give like at least one of them 5 stars, but I was right in the middle, which is strange because I feel like people either really love Sally Rooney or really hate Sally Rooney. And I was pretty much in the middle. Like, if I were to add, let me get a quick average for you guys. 6, 2, like 3. Math. 3.5, 4, 10 divided by 3 is like 3.3. Like 3.3333333. Out of 5. That's my average rating. That is my average rating, is 3.3333333 out of 5. So they're definitely serviceable. I cannot talk. I had a really long day at work. I just needed to get this over with now that it's been a week since I last updated. I just need to give my final thoughts. Do I think she's worth the hype? No. I don't think she's a 5-star author. Reading is just a very personal thing, and I didn't gel with her books that much. I didn't hate them. I feel like I'm just talking in circles at this point. You know my thoughts. If you've made it to this point in the video, you know my thoughts. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. I don't know what it'll be. I don't know when it'll be. I can't even guarantee that it'll be soon, but if you're back, I will see you in that one. So thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.